League is over. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We can just talk about normal football. Hello, everybody. It's the pre-match chat for West Ham versus Chelsea. And finally, in a format that is competitive and based on sporting merit, although we do go into the game with a number of injuries and possibly even a key change in midfield. Before we get on to all things West Ham Chelsea, Dan, how we doing, mate?
Much better now, mate, after that nonsense ended. You know, we can finally focus on football, getting back to the Premier League and just enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was an emotional roller coaster, wasn't it? I was all over the shop, checking Twitter every 2 seconds, trying to figure out and fathom what exactly was happening. But I'm glad it's all over. And credit to Carragher and Neville, because they basically drove it out. So, you know.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's I don't think it's fully finished. Obviously, the new Champions League format is still a little bit concerning, particularly and also to do with the sanctions as well towards some of these clubs. And I'm hoping there isn't too much leniency regarding that. Whether or not we get a real decent solution to it, I'm really unsure, mate. Your thoughts on that? Do you think the Premier League will have to finally come up with some backbone, or do you reckon they back down to the big six?
The longer it goes on, mate, the longer I think they'll back down, because you've obviously heard today about the 3 Spanish clubs that are involved and not getting any sanctions. I think, who was it that Souness said something like the reputations will be damaged anyway? So it doesn't matter if they get sanctions, which is a load of nonsense, to be honest. But, you know, they need to show some backbone, like you said, and punish them fairly quickly. But again, if these big six had anything about them, they'd also, you know, stand up and reject this new UCL reformat that's coming in 2024. They'd stand against that. But of course, it benefits them, doesn't it? So they're not going to do that. So money talks, mate, at the end of the day in football.
It does. It's a shame there's not an integrity. I think this is kind of it's a touchy subject, and it's a difficult thing to really understand. But the whole importance of those teams to the Premier League, as much as I don't like it, is there. And I think that's why I've always sort of thought going forward that they're not going to be treated as harshly as perhaps other teams want them to be. If the Premier League did have integrity and it did follow through with certain things, and I'm led to believe that the 14 other clubs are divided on it because they know of the importance of these teams. However, they would go ahead and they would points deductions, transfers embargo. I know that Madrid are being looked at seriously in terms of transfer bans, in terms of possibly being banned from the Champions League, which I think is fair. But having said all that, I think, isn't it, Barcelona, Madrid and possibly Juve are all still going ahead with this Super League, or they've put out a statement, but they're not. But they've been very non-committal regarding coming out of it.
Well, Barcelona will have to, because their financial position, as we've touched on before in the last show, you know, about that, is it's embarrassing, isn't it? You know, they're on the periphery of, you know, that they're in a bad position, so they need that. Real Madrid, I think they're probably a bit better off than what Perez is alluding to. Yes, they probably can't afford the likes of Haaland and Mbappe at the moment, but I'm sure, you know, once they get the TV revenues and all that, and the end of the season prize for finishing, I'm sure they'll have money in the bank again, and this can be forgotten about soon financially. So, but you remember in that 83-84 season, mate, where we finished third? Yeah, we couldn't qualify, could we, for the we couldn't get into Europa because basically some fan, was it Liverpool fans in Juventus or something, and then all the 5 English teams were drawn out, were banned for 2 years or something. So yeah.
What I would say about that, I'm not convinced that Madrid will be fine. £900 million worth of debt. Barcelona have spent a lot of that Neymar money really, I don't want to say inappropriately, ineffectively. And that hasn't helped them in terms of the playing side of things. I think they're both in financial trouble. I think Juve is a bit of a money grab, but having said that, they spent a lot on Ronaldo, obviously bringing him into the club, and they've got aspirations. So I think in terms of their models and in terms of their league, it benefits them. Actually, there's a comment regarding West Ham, normally an inoffensive club, but we're top 4 this season, mate, so we're competing, and he says he's scared for Saturday, so hopefully it'll be a competitive game. But I did want to touch before we get onto that thing regarding the British Super League. I don't know how much you've seen of this, mate, but allegedly an 18-team Premier League, Rangers and Celtic coming over and competing. Just as it's a lot more inoffensive than a Super League, but on a kind of a neutral standpoint, I think it would be quite interesting to see Celtic and Rangers with Premier League money, because they've sort of threatened coming into the league for years. What are your thoughts on it, mate? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it makes the league a little bit more competitive, or are you a bit concerned that they'll be given a bit of a platform?
I think there's pros and cons, isn't there, mate? I think they're 2 massive clubs. I think the fan bases are huge. So from that perspective, the likes of Celtic fans and Rangers fans coming into the Premier League and coming to these different grounds, I think will give the Premier League a boost in terms of supporters, because I think, them two supporter-wise, Celtic are huge, absolutely massive. And obviously their league is mainly walked by them two, isn't it? Apart from, I don't know how they'd restructure that league, the Scottish League, but...
Apparently they're all right with it. Oh, that's what I've heard. They're fine just
Really?
having the league as it is, which I think's probably quite dangerous, because how we felt in the situation where some of these Premier League clubs were breaking away, that's what's going to happen to some Scottish teams. So
yeah. But I've always had the understanding, mate, that I could be being thick here, but if Cardiff and Swansea are in the Championship, the English leagues, and they're in Wales as well, right? Rangers and Celtic in English football as well. It doesn't
probably because they've had a monopoly on it for so long, and it hasn't.
Yeah, possibly.
And as much as there isn't the money in the Premier League's become so great that it's become like the golden handshake, hasn't it? And I think Celtic and Rangers, in order for them to, I think they've just reached that ceiling, and and these have been talks that have been going on for 20 years. I agree with you, mate. Why, if Cardiff and Swansea are in the Premier League or have been in the English League for so long, why aren't Celtic and Rangers? Anthony talks about killing the Scottish game, and again, that would be a concern for probably a lot of Scottish fans. But then I say some of these clubs feel that it's a better opportunity for them to win some silverware and compete in these competitions. So if some buts, I've got to be honest, I don't know enough about it to really give any proper insight into it, but I think it would be intriguing to see them Celtic away and Rangers away for West Ham.
Oh yeah, you'd love that, wouldn't you? I've never been to the grounds, but the two great grounds, good clubs. Obviously, there's that rivalry as well, and obviously, them coming into the Premier League, as I've mentioned, and the fans, and they've got some talented players. And like you said, they've reached a plateau, haven't they? They've reached that wall of, we can't go any further in this league because they need more money, don't they? Naturally, they're after money. Being in the Premier League will get them more money naturally, increase their revenue, increase their brand awareness, everything like that. So I've always thought through the years, mate, as a football fan, as a neutral, watching them, I would be like, these would be all right in the Premier League. It'd be a bit different, but be interesting to see how it develops. And I just don't want it to kill Scottish football as well, because it's a good league, and you got to think about the implications of that. And I guess that's the equivalent of the Super League for them, isn't it? Because these big teams suddenly thinking, okay, bye, we'll go and join another league, and then what happens then? So
yeah, agreed. Concerns. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, it will be interesting to see. I think that's more likely to happen than that farce of a league that Florentino Perez tried to think up all those days ago. That's how quick it went past. It wasn't a nightmare. It was actual reality. West Ham, we're back in the Premier League. It's good to see. It is going to be, for me, the toughest fixture, or was the toughest fixture coming up, other than Leicester in this run that we've got towards then and then at the end of the season. Chelsea, a disappointing draw against Brighton. I'm sure that Chelsea fans are feeling the pressure. Again, Liverpool drew to Leeds. So West Ham, albeit dropping points against Newcastle with a disappointing performance. Possibly, mate, if we pull something out the bag on this one, we throw ourselves right back in there.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah. It'd be massively tough game, a really tough game. I know in the past Moyes got a good record, because we beat them 1-0, didn't we? And we beat them 3-2. So at home under Moyes, we've got we're doing well, but they're a problem, as we know, as we'll delve into. But it's a big chance for us, because they dropped points the other night. Obviously Liverpool dropped points against Leeds, so it's a big chance for us to stake our claim, revitalise ourselves a bit after Newcastle, and put a statement out there that we mean business and we can get top four. So
yeah, and again, toughest test I think since Tuchel's come in for Chelsea. They've been really efficient. The way they control games, the way that they defend. And I think a lot of us, me included, were a bit guilty of forgetting about the quality that Chelsea did have in the squad, the amount of money they spent last summer. And that Tuchel does have a lot of decent players at his disposal. But the player I've probably been more impressed with in terms of how he's got something out of him is Jorginho. Now, Jorginho, again, a Sarri signing, really and truthfully, didn't really fit in with Frank Lampard's high press style. Your thoughts on Jorginho, mate? Because you said to me the other day you weren't too sure on him, but what do you think about him? Do you think he's going to be a problem for West Ham?
I think so. I think in terms of that pivot that Tuchel wants, Jorginho was naturally probably that best player to suit that role. I know at Dortmund he played with a double pivot, didn't he? He played with one. He played with Gundogan or was it Weigl there? But under PSG, he went to a double pivot. Marquinhos came in there, didn't he? But Jorginho was that natural kind of role to fit in. I know he was a target for Tuchel at PSG, so Tuchel's always liked him. He's always rated him highly, and now he's got him. He's just a good player, mate. The thing is for me under Tuchel's system is that he's got a massive responsibility to cut out them central passing lanes. So the likes of us getting it to Lingard, he's there to really, see it out and get it off. And he's vital as well in their fluid build-up shape. You can either see it in a 2-1-3, 1-3-2, and a 4-2. Tuchel's done that in his career. So, that one holding midfielder really preaches control in phases of play. So I think he's a massive player for them in the way they play, in the way Tuchel wants to play. But the only concern for me, mate, is where we can get the better of him is that there's been questions and eyebrows raised over his physicality and getting back into them areas to block them passing lanes. So if we can exploit that, then you never know.
Absolutely spot on, mate. I watched Brighton the other day, and a lot of Chelsea fans were saying it was a boring game. And listen, I love my football, so I can kind of see the elements of it and enjoy it. And Brighton really did a great job at restricting Chelsea's space and stopping them from having time on the ball. And yes, they matched them up in terms of formation. But I thought, like you said about Jorginho, at times he's really good under pressure, and he makes the right decisions in terms of passes, which again can force West Ham out of position, something that we need to be wary of. But timed right with the right press, and listen, West Ham have got great energy up front in Bowen and Lingard. He can make mistakes. He got pinched by Basuma, got pinched by Welbeck. And you look at West Ham's midfield, and we'll touch on the formation. Souček, Fornals in there. They love pressing. They love getting close. They've got that physicality. And I hope that we can try and get the best of them. Turnovers in those high areas, we can exploit Chelsea.
Yeah, that's what you need to do, especially against players like Jorginho, who's going to pivot in front of that back three for Chelsea that they've set up under Tuchel and really press him, mate, because, he's very good on the ball. He can get out of tight areas, like you said, but physically he's not that quick on the ball. He's not that athletic. He's not that, how do I say it? He's not like Basuma on the ball. Do you know what I mean? So technically you can look to exploit him and pressurize him and force that high press to get the better of Chelsea.
Yeah, no, he loves keeping the tech. Basuma's it's a good comparison actually in terms of difference, because I thought Basuma was under pressure at times and he never looks flustered at all. No. But there may be quite a bit to say about that formation of Brighton, where there are always men available for him. So he's never really isolated. Whereas I feel like when I watch Jorginho at times, again, if the centre backs are split and Tuchel tries to make his defence a little bit wider, he's a bit concerned about playing that backward pass, because if a team's pressing high, you're going to make errors. Ed's talking about what thoughts on our lineup. Yeah. We might as well get into it while he's asked the question. Apparently, Benrahma will come in, so I therefore believe it is going to be a 4-2-3-1. So should we start with the first pressing issue before we get on to Benny? The back four. Would you have gone with a back four against Chelsea? Because I personally, I've picked my team, and I'd like to have seen a back five. Yeah. Your thoughts that there's a bit of a concern with how Chelsea can introduce attackers in there. You've got almost a front four at times, that we're going to be a bit overwhelmed.
In them central areas, I would have gone with a back five, because when you look at the likes of Havertz and Werner this season, what they've done under Tuchel is they've created this overload in the midfield. So they've dropped very deep and allowed Ziyech to bomb forward, and obviously the wing backs as well. So in terms of, as a flat back four under Moyes, we've been good, but at parts we've been susceptible to high pressing players, to energetic players that Chelsea have, like Mason Mount, like Ziyech, who can really press you from the top. So I just think that back five gives you that, of course, that added solidity, that bit of more composure, and I think, you got the likes of Diop, obviously, as we keep mentioning. Sorry, Diop, mate, but with his distribution, lack of it, that could be a cause of concern. But listen, if Benrahma plays, it's his chance to shine. But I would have gone with a back five for this.
Yeah, and of course, naturally, even when we've played a back five this season, doesn't necessarily mean that you're too defensive or you sit too deep. If anything, it does offer you decent ball carriers. I think it would be a really brave decision by David Moyes, if I'm honest, to play. I know it's a midfield five, and it may become almost a bit like a 5-4-1 at times, but just to have possibly the number of number 10s that we're going to have in there is interesting, because what I do think it shows, and we'll talk about Benrahma just in terms of him as an individual and what he's done this season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly we can try and overwhelm that Chelsea double pivot. There is an opportunity there with someone like a Jorginho and a Kante. As good as Kante is in terms of reading danger, as good as Jorginho is in terms of at times being under pressure and picking the right pass, does Moyes maybe feel that that's an area that West Ham can exploit, getting in and around them, create those turnovers, and possibly exploit the space a bit?
Yeah, I think from transition, definitely. I think if you look at Chelsea and their wing backs and how high Chilwell or James or Alonso push up the pitch when they're attacking, some of them are quick, some of them aren't. But if you can get Benrahma, stay high up the pitch with Lingard and get them interchanging very quickly, then it could be devastating. So I do get the rationale behind it, but at the same time, the teams that have played Chelsea under Tuchel, they've only had 2 defeats in 20, mate. One of them was against West Brom, where they played a back 5. I'm not saying, we should do it solely because West Brom beat them 5-2. But if you look at that game, West Brom sucked up the pressure. Chelsea didn't know what to do, to be honest, because West Brom sussed them out. It was a classic Big Sam, game. And then they countered with great effect with Pereira and Robinson. But listen, Moyes has got it right this season. He's always majority spot on. But I think this is a big calculated risk, especially against a team as good as Chelsea.
Yeah, the back 4, I think it's good to have Ogbonna. I think if we didn't have Ogbonna back from injury, I would be a little bit concerned about our centre-back partnership. Craig Dawson's been good, but recently the form sort of dipped a little bit. And you look at the type of players that, even though I'm more comfortable with Ogbonna playing, West Ham are coming up against Havertz, who, for me, technically has got the ability. I think he will improve next season. I think he's been unfortunate in terms of a bit of a stop-start campaign, but definitely he's there. If Timo Werner plays, although I don't believe technically he's the best player, great work rate. Someone mentioned in the chat, Pulisic. It's just about our back 4 at times being under pressure and making the right decisions. And although, and like I touched on it before, like we went live, like with Diop, I'm a bit harsh on him because I watch these games back, and actually he's not as bad as I think he is. But at the same time, when you watch it live and you don't know what happens, you do sort of think you're taking a split second too long. Are you worried, mate, that maybe in a game like this, Diop could slip up, or do you think that maybe because of the pressure and the enormity of the London derby, that possibly he does turn up and he keeps his concentration levels for 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think if you're going off the fact that Spurs away a few years ago, he was a man mountain, mate. He was one of the best players on the pitch. So I think he'll definitely be up for the occasion and know what it means for obviously the club and especially in this current predicament, in this current situation that we're in, fighting for the top 4. But I think Tuchel will look to play Werner solely because if you look against City, he caused them all sorts of problems because he was running in behind, and that was Lampard's biggest. The inability for Lampard to get the best out of them two was a major factor in why he lost his job. So they brought Tuchel in because he knows these players. They're obviously the German connection. Tuchel knows how they play, and Werner is very good at running in behind. He's got a lot of pace. He's not the best technically. He's not shown that yet, but if you get him on the shoulder of Diop and Zoufal, it could cause a few issues. So I think that's what they might look to do.
But I did think that the reason why he did well against City was because they played a high line and City had a lot of the ball, and it was kind of, particularly in that second half, and it suited Werner's game. And I wonder whether against West Ham, if we are sitting deep at times, is Werner really going to try? You are right in terms of that pace element to it, but I just feel that West Ham, we're not, albeit it does seem a bit of an ambitious formation, we're not going to go out there and really press high from the front or even have a high line. Yeah. So it might be tough for him to operate.
This is where Tuchel's very clever, though, very intelligent in the fact that, yes, he'll anticipate that this is a different game. We'll probably drop deep, we'll probably be compact in a low block, but if you look at Aubameyang under Tuchel, Aubameyang became this well-rounded striker because of his offensive transitions, mate. Because he made a lot of functional runs. So he either dropped deep, got the ball to feet, he spinned, the defender went in behind, different angles. So that's what Tuchel will be looking to get out of Werner. He'll say West Ham will be in a low block, but you can still come deep. You can drop off the shoulder quickly, make that run in behind or angles. So that's where Tuchel's very clever. He'll anticipate that it's a completely different game to Man City in terms of transitional play, but that's where
I'd leave Werner.
Come into play.
I would leave Werner off. Like I think that's the thing about West Ham, particularly if we play a double pivot, Souček and particularly Mark Noble as well. By the way, because Werner could thrive on the fact that Noble would go out and try and meet him a little bit. And whilst technically he's not great, Werner just has that athleticism that's going to catch him, and all of a sudden those spaces pop up. So I think West Ham have got to be wary of that, exactly like you say, because at times with Werner, he's a very selfless player, particularly at the minute because he's not scoring goals. He's given a lot away for the team, and you see that in the FA Cup semi-final. So, listen, I'm sure Moyes has got his number. I think he will play. If I'm honest, he didn't play midweek. Came on later, which probably signifies that he is going to play against West Ham, and maybe he is hoping. Yeah. Tuchel's watched West Ham over the past 4 games, and we've been at times way too easy to play through, and we're out of shape very, very quickly. And
that's the concern.
He just thinks he's going to get that space, and he can be effective.
Yeah, especially in the second half, mate. You know, if we're looking to go at them a bit more, and they've got Werner doing what he did against City, because the game will change at some point, then you've got a problem there. Or he may look to start even Havertz and create that overload in midfield and between Noble and Souček and nullify them. So there's loads of different issues, and Tuchel's one of the best at being innovative with his tactics and changing them if they're not right, even in the first few minutes. So it'd be very, very, very tough game.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you your thoughts on Ben Johnson actually from the last game, because I've covered it anyway, and I've got to be honest, he was at fault for that 3rd goal. I think you can see from the positioning, but I don't think he's as. I'm not saying people are saying he's bad, but they're saying he's poor. I look at him and I think he's still relatively young. He's technically sound. He's playing on the left-hand side, not on the right-hand side. Give him time, he'll improve. But it is a big test for him against Chelsea. You look at Reece James down that right. If he plays as a conventional left-back, he's got to get close to him. He's got to stop him getting crosses into the box. He's got to stop him getting passed into the byline. Reece James is a huge threat and a major part of why Chelsea can play the way that they do.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good player, Reece James. Going off topic, I was an intern at Wigan and he was playing there, and all of the fans were saying these guys are Rolls Royce of a player. He was playing in midfield at the time as well. So in terms of that
physicality, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. Even then, I thought he's too good for this league. But no, Johnson. I don't think Johnson's poor. I think he's still young, like you said. He's a bit rash. He needs more game time under his belt. For me, short and sweet. I don't know if that's in the Premier League or if next season he goes out on loan. But I think there's a good player there. I think in terms of getting forward and putting crosses in with both feet, he's very comfortable. Ideally, yes, sometimes not the best of crosses, but they're still, most of them, the majority of them, mate, are good. But as well, you've got Ziyech, who's Tuchel's pretty much transformed, hasn't he? Seeing against City, high pressing, coming in off that right. And Ziyech, to be fair, doesn't really need to hug the touchline like he did at Ajax, because if he plays in them central areas and he's got that eye for a pass, which he does, and he can get Werner in behind, then Johnson's got a bit of an issue there. But he's better offensively than he is defensively. But maybe it might suit him that flat, being a left back instead of a left wing back. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it's good for him to get time and experience naturally. I would like to see him next season get a bit more time on his natural side. And that is a tough thing, because obviously today we've been linked with Max Aarons, which again, I don't really know too much. I know we were interested in previously. We've obviously got Soufal there, Fredericks as well. It's a bit of it's ironic. We're quite fortunate that we've got so many right-sided defensive players, because that's the only place we've really got any depth in. So his pathway in terms of playing regular Premier League football, it isn't really a concern now, because he's still relatively young, and it's good that he is so versatile, because he is getting opportunities. But I think long term, he needs to go out on loan, possibly if we bring someone in and have a full season under his belt in his natural position.
Yeah, he does. Because like you said, he's not a natural left back, is he? But that competition at right back, obviously, Soufal coming in, being as good as he has done, it's kind of forced Moyes' hand to think, right, we'll play Johnson at left back instead and be covered for Masuaku. But yeah, alluding to your point, it's a massive test for him, a huge test under this system as well. If you've got Ziyech coming centrally, or Reece James, as you've mentioned, mate, as well, and the crosses he can put in, and he's not eye-catchingly quick, but he's still quick, isn't he? And he's very intelligent on the ball. So Johnson's got to be at it from minute one, and it'll probably be the biggest game of his career. So no pressure, Ben.
Do you think? Here we go. It's the Side Ben Rama chat. So if everyone does want to get their comments ready for this in the comment section below, then go and fire ahead, because he's a very divisive individual as far as West Ham players go. You either love him or you really don't like him. And this could be a massive game for him, because if we're led to believe Moyes is giving him a start in a big game, and normally he doesn't trust him, and that's the main thing to remember here, he has to step up. He has to make the right decisions at the right time. Chelsea's counter-pressing style is so good that if we have the ball, he's got very limited time to think. Do you think Benrahma really has to step up in this game if he's going to really make a statement and say, look, I want to be part of this West Ham side and I want to be a regular first-teamer?
Yeah, spot on. It's now or never, isn't it, really? If he wants, like you said, if he wants to cement his place in that side, he needs to put in a performance, Tuchel's teams are very good at shifting, with that blocker, with pressurising on different flanks. So he won't get a lot of time on the ball. He'll have to use it quickly. He can't, what's the word? He can't, he can't take too many touches like he normally does because he's very indecisive on the ball, I think, sometimes. But sometimes as well, you see him, he gets out of his feet and then he gives it quickly. But in the final third, for me, that's where he needs to improve. Yes, he's very divisive. What's that comment say?
I think there's an irony because in terms of him being a problem player, because he's really not. Every time I see him, he is trying. Is he trying too hard? Do you know? Is he trying too hard because of the time that he does have on the pitch, relatively speaking, is 20, 30 minutes, and he has to make an impression. And he needs to understand, and again, me lecturing Cy Benrahma on a football game in the Premier League is ridiculous.
Listen in, yeah.
But come on, Cy, just listen in. He just needs to... He's just got to do his job effectively to get the trust of David Moyes. We see this with Fornals last season. He didn't really rate Fornals. He didn't really know how to use him. And it took a while for Fornals to be in favour with Moyes. And the reason why Fornals got a run in the team, even though, and he missed a lot of sitters at the beginning of the season, he's not without blame, is because he did the right things, generally speaking, in his overall play at the right time.
Exactly.
And I think even if Benrahma isn't scoring goals, he does need to make the right passes and keep hold of the ball. And truth be told, he's one of our best technical players, so he can do it as well.
Yeah, no, he can. I'd be very disappointed if Fornals was dropped at the expense of Benrahma, to be honest with you, because I don't think Fornals...
I don't think he will be. Can't see it in this game.
Hopefully not, because Fornals hasn't put a foot wrong. He's one of our most consistent players for me. But yeah, like you said, Benrahma, he does... The thing is, there is a player there, undoubtedly. Technically, he's very, very good on the ball. His skills. Look at his skills, mate. They remind me of when we had Payet in terms of that. He gets out of close. He can make something out of nothing, but it's his final end. He's trying too hard, isn't he? Basically, like you said, he is trying too hard.
It's frustrating because as a side, we're so based on those transitions, and to a degree, I think we've really honed it in terms of how quick we are. You even see with that Leicester goal for the second, Diop over the top, Bowen bang right across. People are saying 3-0 Leicester, which isn't a great result. We're so quick in terms of that movement, and I don't think he's quite understanding that remit. And I just wonder whether he's got time. That's the thing. He has got time. I think even if West Ham next season, whether I think we'll get European football. I really, really hope we do. Whether it's Champions League or Europa League, it remains to be seen. He has got time, but he has to now, particularly now towards the end of the season where we are in the position that we're in, show something. Because I wonder whether if Moyes gets to a transfer market and goes, listen, I don't rate him, we'll bring another midfielder in, then it will be difficult for him to find his way in. Because if Moyes brings someone in that he actually wants rather than someone that Sullivan's given him, it's going to be hard for Benrahma, and it'll be a bit of a downward spiral. That's
what I've said to you before. If he gets a decent offer for him in the summer, I think he'll be off. The thing, I don't really think Benrahma, mate, is a transitional player. I don't think he's suited to our style of play. And the reason I'm saying this is because at Brentford, they have a lot of possession. Last season when he was there, likes of him and Bremo, whoever else, they had a lot of the ball. They were dictating the play. Benrahma was solely the architect. He was there centrally. He was dropping deep to receive the ball, everything like that. I think now, obviously, with our success being in transitional play from counter-attacks, dropping deep and then sucking up the pressure and then bombing forward with Lingard, I don't think Benrahma has got that in his, but I've not seen it yet. I can't see him suiting that style of play, which is why he's not getting many minutes, to be honest.
But you could kind of say the same about Fornals in the fact that he isn't a quick player, that his physical attributes aren't there in terms of...
He's more decisive. He's more decisive.
Yeah, but he's got that into his game, though. And I saw... When you watch Benrahma play, and I think, again, it's not ideal. Me and you touched on that left-hand side in terms of getting a quick, direct player. For me, I'd love to see one in the door. But he has against Burnley played a brilliant pass, and he's got the vision to play that specific type of pass. And maybe even if he can't transition effectively physically, he can contribute in other ways. But he's got to start showing that. He takes way too many touches on the ball, and he slows us up. And if he slows us up, we lose it, and then they recycle it. And that's where my problem comes with him, particularly in these big games.
Or especially if he's up against the likes of Kurt Zouma as well, who's a very physical, quick centre back as well. If he's coming up against him and he's dilly-dallying on the ball, Zouma's just going to get it off him. Yeah, Kante as well. With Kante's recoveries, mate, are ridiculous. I think he's up there. Well, he's probably top any of Chelsea's list for recoveries, but him off the ball as well. His work rate, Jorginho as well. If he comes to this, Ben Rahman needs to be decisive on the ball. He needs to be quick. He can't dilly dally, because if we lose possession and Chelsea counter with them players and with their transitional play, then it could cost us a goal. So
it is tough. It is tough. And listen, I've given praise where it's due, but with Mark Noble, if we get caught out, it's going to be hard with a back four as well. We haven't got those kind of defensive reserves, so there is. Yeah. I don't know about you, mate. Do you think, like, with this formation, because of Nobes and he'll play slightly deeper in Souček, that there is a lot of things that our attacking midfield three need to do off the ball in terms of work rate? And I probably would hazard a guess that it'll be Lingard, Benrahma and Fornals. They need to be closing Chelsea down and trying to win the ball, because we cannot afford to play Mark Noble too high up, because he's just going to get exploited.
No, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised at times if Fornals comes into that midfield three. As a pivot three, mate, off the ball. Because like you said, you spot on. The work they all need to put in is going to be huge, because obviously that central overload with Werner or Havertz dropping into that position, that's where they'll look to exploit us. And, you know, with the quality they've got on the ball as well, with Jorginho probably dictating the style of play, and you've got Kante as well, who's very good at it. Ziyech can come centrally, and he's very good on the ball, as you've seen when he was at Ajax. So I'm assuming, mate, that Fornals will do a lot of that work. Benrahma will track back as well, but Lingard will stay higher up the pitch, because when he gets the ball in them areas, like you've seen against Wolves, and he carries it forward, he's relentless. He's unstoppable. So I think that'll be the game plan, and hopefully, you know, it works.
What do you think of Mason Mount as a player? Because I've done a video that's come out today, and I said he was Lampard's boy, and now he's Tuchel's boy. And I think, look, on a football basis, and me thinking about England as well going forward, he doesn't really get the credit that I think he deserves. I think off the ball, he's brilliant. He works so hard for the team. His pressing's unbelievable. The energy that he's got, but technically, there are very few flaws with him. Yes, he's not a player that it necessarily excels in one area, but he's very good in multiple areas. Your thoughts on him, mate? And do you think he's pretty much a bang-on starter for England?
Oh, he's a top player. He's a very, very good player. Only improving as well. You know, like he was Lampard's teacher's. He was a teacher's pet when he was under Lampard.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
He was. He was like his kid, but he's
got that look and all, isn't he? He's got that look of a teacher.
Yeah, kind of yeah. But Lampard's had he does. But Lampard's had a massive influence on his career. Obviously, at Derby County, gave him that platform, consistent run of games. With him and Harry Wilson were excellent that season, weren't they? But I think he's a nailed-on starter for me. Yeah, I just think, like you said, off the ball, he doesn't get enough credit. You know, he's pressing, his interceptions are up there this season as well. Surprisingly.
Half turns is a big part of the game that goes underrated. It's something that Phil Foden's very, very good at. And you see that goal that he scored against Porto. I'm like, that's what you need. You talk about sometimes England, sorry to interrupt, and I've gone off on a tangent.
No, you haven't. No,
with some of these sides that England can have a lot of the possession, you need a guy that can take it on the half turn and make that space. And he's a guy that can do it. And I think everyone kind of looked at Grealish as the guy and Foden's the guy. But when you've got someone like Mount that can do that and do everything else, it becomes, as a manager, it probably becomes quite difficult not to pick him.
Oh, exactly. You can't ignore him, can you? Because he just offers something different. I know Werner's a direct ball carrier. Havertz has a bit of everything, like you said, you've alluded to before. Who else you got? But Mount, like you said, can create something out of nothing. I know most of these players can, but Mount does it all the time. That split second of magic, like Foden. He has, and that goal against Porto, you know, but pretty much came out of nothing as well. It was mainly him that created it.
Completely.
So, yeah, he's just a no-brainer for England, and he'll cause a lot of problems for us. I know he's not the quickest, but on the ball, he's fantastic. You know, he's such a good player, and I don't think people speak highly of him enough, to be honest, at all.
No, Anthony said in the chat, you know, Mason Mount's a great player, Foden's better. What I meant by that is Foden excels technically. His first touch and his touch in general, his dribbling is better than Mason's. But what I mean is,
last night,
Mason can do elements of what Phil Foden does, sometimes what Jack Grealish does, but adds everything else. So it's as weird as a fan, you love your Jack Grealishes and your Fodens in terms of their technical ability. But as a manager, you imagine a guy that can play all those different positions. And like Tony says, every time you see him for Chelsea, he's been their best player. But the reason why that is because he can fit into different. He can play on the wing, which he's not really adverse to. He can play as almost like slightly deeper. He can play as a 10. So many. That's such a unique trait to have as a player. You know, maybe it is the modern day player. Maybe people are kind of moving towards that now.
Yeah, no, he's a utility player, isn't he? He's like a Stuart Dallas.
Oh my god,
he is though, isn't he?
I know what you mean. Yeah, on that comparison.
Yeah, for Dale if he's here. I haven't seen him tonight, to be fair, but he is. He can play anywhere, like you said, on the wing or off the shoulder of the striker. He can drop very deep sometimes, and he's just a reliable player to have. He's probably one of the first names on the team sheet under Thomas Tuchel. And you know, like you said, his rapid development's been very impressive, and he'll only improve as a player. How old is he? 22, same as Deck, 23. So
22. I think.
He's got frightening ability, and if you allow him time on the ball, he'll punish you like a lot of their players will. So it's important that we aim to nullify him as best as we can, and that's why I would have gone with a back five, because they've got so many problems in that team. But I don't want to be pessimistic, mate. But
no, neither do I. And again, you don't want to get pulled into this idea that it's going to be a really tough game, and it is going to be a tough game. But I think there are areas, and one of the two guys that we look at the minute are Jarrod Bowen and Jesse Lingard. I saw West Ham put up a tweet today. Jarrod Bowen, I think it was 8 goals, 6 assists this season, which I think is a really good return for his first full season in the Premier League. And I know he had a bit of a, should we say, indecisive patch, but for me, if you're contributing in the way that he is and you're doing the defensive work as well, he's a bit almost like irreplaceable, isn't he, on that right-hand side? You need him in your team because he can offer stuff going forward and he can offer stuff defensively. Yeah,
I think he had a rough patch, didn't he, of about 5 to 10 games where he wasn't quite doing it. You know, he was quite predictable at times in his play. He was quite lethargic. I think he was catching up on him naturally. I think that, you know, transition from the Championship to the Premier League is going to hit anyone hard. And he had a lot of games under his. He's played he's played the joint most games this season for West Ham. He's played a lot of games, and his first full season to acclimatise to that. You know, it's gonna take it out with him a bit. But I just think, you know, he's a top player, and obviously, again, he's proved his worth to Moyes in terms of playing that striker role, which he's done really, really well actually. It's given him a new lease of life, mate, hasn't it, really? Against Wolves, he came on, made an instant impact.
I was literally about to say that to you. I think he looks better as almost like an inside forward or even slightly more central than he does as a winger, because he can be quite... He looks very predictable to play against. He's always going to cut into his left because he's so left dominant. But then when I watch him now as a forward, and it's interesting, there's only little niche moments of him, but when he is on his right foot, he's using his right foot now. So he's clearly aware that he's becoming a little bit predictable. But he finds, not only has he got great movement, but he finds space really well in just those kind of central areas in the box. And I wonder whether long term he might become more of an inside forward and Moyes will use him like that.
I think so, because that's where at Hull as well he built his success from, isn't it? You know, developing in terms of an inside forward, and you know, the manager, I can't remember who the manager was there, but he really did get the best out of him. And you know, like you said, he was a bit like Yarmolenko. He's all left-footed, isn't he? But I think if he can develop his weaker foot, which, like you said, he's probably aware of, and Moyes is probably slamming him, saying you need to improve this, then he'll become a really good all-rounded player. And he's proven his worth. You know, he's a very versatile forward, but he offers a lot, like you said. He utilises that snap, short bit of space really efficiently. You know, against Wolves, the tight angle, mate, that wasn't an easy finish.
No, it was a really difficult finish. It was against the bar. There's only really one place you could put it if you were going to put it there.
I know, it was a cracking finish. So no, he's I've been critical of him this season when he had his sticky patch, and sometimes he's given the ball away or whatever. But the last few games, the way he stepped up in that role, dare I say it, we've not really missed Antonio since he stepped in. So I think it's credit to Bowen, the work he's putting in, and how good he is. He's very explosive, and I think that inside forward role probably suits him more than just hugging the touchline all the time.
I sort of half agree with this statement and half don't. Bowen's decent with his back to goal. I wouldn't have agreed with that possibly a couple of games ago because I was saying I don't think he's doing enough. I don't think he holds it up well enough. I don't think he draws enough fouls. But now I think now he's playing in that kind of central role, and a lot of it for me is to do with the mentality because as a player technically he's pretty sound. Let's be honest. But the fact that Antonio's out, he knows he's got to step up. He's got to fulfill that mantle. And he's had about 2-3 months worth of missing chances occasionally and not being able to contribute. And he doesn't look like his confidence has really taken a knock. He's always been there. So what I think the best thing, he's such a moist player, isn't he? Like he just wants to improve. He's young, he's hungry, and he doesn't give up and he doesn't deter that. And I can't remember how old he is. I think he might be 20,
he's 23? 24, 5, isn't he?
24, 5. He's got years. He's got 3-4 years until he hits his prime. So I think as a Premier League player, he really has proven his worth. And a lot of these players, to be honest, mate, next season, I think it's a big season for them. I know Fornals has done better this season. Ben Rama, will we see the best of him? Jarrod Bowen. We've got some players that I think have got a little bit of growth in there. And hopefully we'll see the best of them.
Yeah, that's important as well. It's important to have a balance, to have, like Moyes is aspiring to getting these younger players in, building a young squad. Because a few years ago, we had a really aging squad. And like you've seen with Palace this season, a lot of them, 11 players in the summer for them are out of contract. So it will catch up on you. But just going back to that comment as well, I don't think Bowen's game is to play with his back to goal. That's not his game. So I think instead he draws fouls. He's drawn the most fouls out of any other West Ham player this season. So I think he's very good in terms of using his body in a sense to draw these fouls and draw the defenders to him.
That's what you have to do when you don't have the physicality like Antonio.
Exactly,
That's the one thing you either play it simple and you keep hold of it, which is going to be tough when you've got someone pressing high on you, or you win a free kick, or you take the pressure out of it. So I've been really happy to see him do that actually in the past 2 or 3 games. I think that's been. And you say he's got drawn the most fouls all season, so maybe it's gone under the radar, mate. Maybe I need to go watch all these games back. So I'm missing something on Jarrod Bowen.
Yeah, but as well, that goes so undervalued. It's so undervalued as well because when we're protecting a lead and we're counter-attacking and he wins a foul, it gives everyone a breather. So I think he's very intelligent with his game management as well. And like you said, his mentality, his tenacity to improve as a player and get through that rough patch, I think, as well defines him as a player because obviously you see it with Benrahma at the moment. If you can get through that sticky patch where you've not had a goal in football, that sets you out from being a good player to being an average player in the Premier League. And I think Jarrod Bowen, like you said, he's got a lot of years ahead of him, and I think he's got the potential to become a top player in the Premier League. For me.
Yeah, he smacks of someone that I think people will underrate, and then all of a sudden he will pop up with a 10-goal, 5-assist season, and all of a sudden he'll become indispensable for West Ham, and we've got a good asset on our hands. Tony says, I'm not worried about our forward players against Chelsea. I'm worried about our lack of pace in midfield and making mistakes. And I think we all are, to be honest, mate. The minute we can get Declan, I've always said when you want to play the formation that I think Moyes is going to play, you need Declan because it actually frees up Souček as well. And I think Souček's I don't think technically Souček's been great. He's made a few errors as well, and that hasn't really gone unnoticed for me. But with Declan behind him, a bit of confidence, getting forward, getting into the box, that's where he's at his best. So I think the sooner we can get Declan back, the more we'll be effective going forward. Yeah,
we'll miss him. We'll miss him this weekend because I don't want it. I've never used Noble as a scapegoat, but I think he'll struggle Saturday. I think in terms of their midfield overload, the dynamic players they've got, I just think
the style. I mean, we're talking quick pieces of possession, playing with triangles.
Noble can't deal with that. Noble's never been able to deal with that. As you've seen against Newcastle, he struggled. When St. Maximin got the ball, he was nowhere to be. Not that I expect Noble's never had pace, but I just mean in terms of dynamic players where teams overload them central areas like Chelsea will do on Saturday. Naturally, they're going to struggle.
That's why I wonder whether Fornals, like you say, will play almost a bit deeper in that kind of midfield three because they're going to get Noble needs that. I think certain games he can get away with it. I always said Wolves would be the game that he can kind of get away with it because he can sit deeper in Wolves. And Wolves were aggressive, to be honest, in the first half, and he did get found out at times. It's not like he's completely blameless, but you really miss how good Declan is just in terms of recoveries and organisation and driving with the ball. And the sooner we can get him back in for the last couple of games, the better, because we'll be on the front foot a lot. And we've got some tricky-ish kind of games, those type of games where we've got to go and break down a team of Burnley, West Brom and Everton. Can we do it? You need Declan for it.
You do, and back to Nobes as well. That Wolves game, obviously they're different teams, mate, but they have a lot of emphasis of building from the flanks, using Neto, using Traore, using these quick players to build from there. Chelsea are completely different. But then again, Noble will be up for it. He's always up for a London derby. He's West Ham through and through, obviously. So I think Noble will be massively up for it. He'll get the boys G'd up, and hopefully we can pull something out of the bag like we always have done this season. So it's a huge game, but a very tough one as well.
It is probably our toughest one. I'm going to ask you for a score prediction, Dan. Don't give us anything negative. Should we just pretend it's an easy game, or should we be as realistic as we possibly can be? I'll let you go first because I've done mine. But
I can never come on here, mate, and say we're going to lose the game. I can't do it. Am I going to be a fence sitter for this one? Probably, yeah. I would love a draw. I'd snatch your hand off for a draw. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go 1-1. I can't say we'll lose, but I don't know, to be honest. I'd love a draw. Yeah, 1-1.
I'm going to go the same, mate. I don't think it's fence sitting. I think it's going to be tough. I'm interested to see how we play with a back four, but I'm sort of optimistic that we're playing with attacking midfielders and maybe we're going to get something. I don't think we're going to open up as possibly people think that we will, but I think Chelsea's quality in terms, like you say, central pockets, Havertz, Werner, Pulisic, players like that will make it tough for us. I can see them getting a goal. But you don't know. You don't know with Chelsea. You know, I think if we've got a bit of the ace, haven't we, really, with Jesse Lingard? So good in a lot of different aspects. He needs a bit of magic from him. You need Jared Bowen. If Ben Rama can find the right pass. I think there'll be moments in this game, but West Ham have almost got to sort of counteract what we feel that we should do and be aggressive on that midfield and overload them and do exactly the same. And hopefully we can get a draw. But for me, a win, a bit too far. I mean, again, like a lot of people have said, we're conceding a lot of goals at the minute. I can't see us keeping it tight. That's my only problem. And I can't see us scoring too many goals either. Chelsea have been unbelievable. They rarely concede. So it's going to be a tough ask.
Well, they've conceded, mate, under Tuchel, 20 games. They've conceded 10 goals and they've scored 26.
Yeah, unbelievable. They're horrible to play against.
They are. But we've got, like Jordan says there, we've got a lot of good players. Jesse as well, on form. We can cause them problems, like you said. If we show ambition from the start, get on the front foot, don't let them dictate the play. Because if you do, then you're asking for trouble. And really go at them, cause them trouble. Ask them questions as well, because Zuma is quick, but I'm not sure on Christiansen sometimes. I'm not sure about him. So if you look to get Jared, Saeed maybe, and Jesse around them, then they have a lot of issues as well. So,
yeah, no, I don't think we should be. I don't think we should just write it off.
It's our toughest game of the season. It's our toughest game of the season.
It is our toughest game. I think if we get a draw, that is a really good result. And I would bet that if you can get Deck back for Burnley and Mickey back for Everton, then we've got some stuff to look forward to. And we can and Cress is a big miss as well. I think if you can get him back in there with some of his set pieces, again, you add something to it. So for me at the minute, it's just sort of just getting past this and keeping up momentum as much as possible. And we've been fortunate that some of these teams have dropped points. So going to be a tough one, mate. We're going to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Like as ever, subscribe to the West Ham Way if you've watched this and you do like it. There is a team, my team against Chelsea, that probably won't be right, but you might as well watch it because it is interesting nonetheless. Just talking a little bit tactically about how West Ham can try and manage this game.
Just on that comment, mate, Anthony, we've scored 11 goals in the last 5 games. So, yeah. Anyway, wrap it up, mate.
Yeah, well, score a lot of goals. We concede a lot of goals at the minute, which I'd rather West Ham got a boring 1-0 against Chelsea or whatever, just stop conceding. I'm sure when we get Cress and Bonner and all these players back, Dawson will be back from suspension. So hopefully going forward, everything will calm down. Exactly what I just said. Like the video again if you didn't hear me the first time. Video will be out tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So keep your eye out for that. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening, and I'll see you all very shortly.